An escalation in the war between Russia and Ukraine today, with Russia launching ICBMs for the first time into the country. I want to bring in Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis to talk about what happened today. Lieutenant Colonel, people are talking about today like it's a shocking escalation. What's your view on what's happening right now?
Well, this is, in my view, just the logical next step going up the escalation ladder, which we are unfortunately helping to climb. And both sides are going up. No one seems to be wanting to come down. And, when the President Joe Biden gave authorization to Ukrainian forces to use American long range weapons inside of Russia, and apparently they attacked reportedly as far as 1,000 kilometers inside Russia into the Bryansk region and some other ones after that. And then apparently Keir Starmer authorized Storm Shadow missiles to be used, and were a couple of days later. Uh, Putin was very and unambiguously clear back in September when this first came up that he said, if this happens, we will regard that as the direct participation of the West, and we will take appropriate countermeasures. He was very clear on that. He confirmed that after Biden gave it, and they signed the document, et cetera, lowering the threshold for nuclear use. And that's one of the things that both puzzles me and alarms me, that the United States and the West is going to be willing to take action that an adversary, a known adversary who does not bluff when it comes to kinetic actions, has said they will take this action if we take long range missiles into their country. And so now then Russia, by all appearances, and by the way, Russia still has not confirmed that they used ICBMs, but mainly this is coming out of Ukraine, so it's still a little murky. But from video evidence, it does appear that they did launch this new category of weapons, which had never been used in combat before. And now then here it comes on there. And so you have the Russian side saying, if you do this, we'll do that. And so far, the Storm Shadow and the ATACMS missiles apparently have not caused any serious damage. They have not hit their targets, which is another reason of concern on our part. But Russia has not taken action against us directly. If that changes, if we continue firing Storm Shadow and ATACMS missiles and they actually cause damage inside of Russia, kill Russian troops, then I think that Putin may do the next rung up that ladder and strike, as he has warned and threatened, against Western assets outside of Ukraine. And then we have a significant risk of like Article 5 escalation, and God only knows where it could go from there. So I think this is a very alarming development, which should get our attention, and we should stop going up the escalation ladder.
Well, my question is though, President Biden, he's basically a lame duck president. He's sitting there for what, another 2 months, less than 2 months now. He's made this major decision, one that he promised the American people that wouldn't happen, that our missiles would not be aimed into Russia. He's made a lot of promises, like the promise not to send F-16s, and there have been a lot of we won't do this, and now we will. And President Biden has made this major decision, and there's not much coming out of Congress about it. Why do you think that is?
There's starting to be a little bit, but unfortunately, I think one of the reasons for that is that a lot of people just they don't understand the ramifications of this action, because they see, because I see it on American Western media all the time, to where you say, oh, Putin said he would do this. All these red lines were crossed with the tanks, and when with the artillery systems, and then with the air defense systems, and then with the HIMARS, et cetera, and then nothing ever happened. Now, it's important to understand we interpreted those red lines. We said they were red lines. Russia didn't. They have said this one, though. They did say long range missiles was a red line. That's a different situation here. But the view in America is, well, they never did anything after these, so they never will. And so they just kind of disconnect their mind, and they think, well, it's just a couple of months before Trump comes in. It's just they're just trying to mess up the groundwork, whatever. They don't understand the significance of this, and I think that they need to pay a lot more attention.
Well, I think the other thing is, Biden has just approved these landmines to be used. I mean, there are 160 countries, including the United States, which banned them from being used in countries. I mean, it's surprising that this would come back into the conversation, and now President Biden has approved them. Again, you would think that, especially after Putin changed the nuclear doctrine to include a country that provides weaponry to be shot into the country, still, we're not hearing, why isn't there more of an uproar? Why isn't there more of an uproar in the media when Putin is now making threats, real threats? Is it just posturing? Are we just considering what Putin says to be posturing?
Yes, they do. Is the short answer to that, and that is just making me go crazy when I keep hearing that over and over. And I'm talking some private conversations behind the scenes, talking to a lot of people, not just what's in public, and they just don't. They just don't think that Russia will ever do anything. They think they'll stay contained and they'll keep it all in there, no matter what that we do. And I think that is a really bad decision to make, or conclusion to reach. And Russia is clearly had been pushed as far back as they're going to be pushed. And listen, this is not any kind of defense of the Russian side at all. You can hate Vladimir Putin for all I care, but what you do have to pay a lot of attention to is what is the capacity of this side, and what are they saying, and what have they done in the past when they have said things. And that is, you can't take action that could cause an adversary to take action antithetical to your own interest. It's like saying, hey, there's a bear in that cave there. Don't go in there or that'll get you. And no one's going to tell me what I can do. I'm going to go into that cave anyway. And then you want to be upset at the bear for doing what it's going to do if you go into its lair. I mean, that's kind of where we're at there. The wise thing is just don't go in the lair. He can't come out and take care of you. He can't come into NATO on his own, because then it's going to, potentially be nuclear war. So Putin has said everything in the world that he does not want to fight a war with the West. He certainly doesn't want to fight a nuclear war, because of his words, no one would win in that case. But, huge but, he says we will do what it takes to defend our territory and our sovereignty. And I think we better take him at his word on this. Risking nuclear war and hoping that he's bluffing is a really bad policy.
One looks at the conversation that was had between President Biden and President-elect Donald Trump in the Oval Office just about a week ago, sitting in front of the fireplace, shaking hands. Biden congratulating Trump on his win, and people saying, "Okay, so this is a peaceful transition. Everyone's becoming friendly again, supposedly." Do you think there was something behind this move by Biden that we're not looking at, that we're not talking about?
Now, I'll tell you, I don't have any sources in the current administration. I don't, so I can't say with any confidence what may or may not have been a motivation. But what I can tell you conclusively is that what should have happened at that is that, because the American people voted in pretty substantial numbers in key areas to elect President Trump, one of the key things he ran on was getting out of this war. And he said, I'm going to bring it to an end immediately. Stark difference between the two campaigns. What the administration should have done is said, okay, this is what the American people wanted. They voted. That is his statement. Trump is still saying that's exactly what he's going to do when he gets in office. So then you should say what's rational is that, okay, in the next 2 months, let's coordinate our actions so that it's a seamless transition on the 20th and the policy of the United States continues on. That's what should have happened. And I'll tell you, secondly, there is zero military efficacy to give to Ukraine the ability to strike long-range targets that will change in any way the course of the war. It could, if the missiles get through, it could cause some periodic damage here, et cetera. But Russia is a vast country, and you are definitely not going to change the course of the war. Therefore, the question must be asked, why then would you take this huge risk when Putin has unequivocally made these statements just as recently as September, and then now added this banned landmine issue to it, which all it can do is be provocative and angering on the Russian side, but can't change the outcome. And it could completely mess up what the next administration is going to come in to do by the American people's desire. And so there are some real questions that have to be asked there, because I don't know anything inside, but I can tell you that the actions are incongruent and they don't line up with what President Biden has said.
Well, Vladimir Putin has said that he is open to negotiations, but that he would only do so with President-elect Trump at the table. How likely do you think it is that even despite this escalation, that Trump can put this to rest, so to speak, pretty quickly?
Yeah, listen, I want to make a point. First of all, Putin has always been willing to talk and has tried to talk from before the war started. He wanted to, look, follow the Minsk agreements. And then even when that didn't happen, then he said in December of 2021, let's have this negotiation. That was worse than the Minsk agreements, but still pretty good. It was basically saying that non-neutral for NATO, for Ukraine, and autonomy even for the Donbass. They didn't even have to give away the Donbass. Then in March, April 2022, again, the Istanbul capabilities deal that was done on paper or largely, and then the West got rid of that. And several others over the time, is as recently as June with Biden. He could have negotiated then. Biden would never talk to him. So it is not true that Putin won't talk to Biden. He won't talk to him now because there's no point in it. But now then, here's the next issue. Because of all that's happened here and the unwillingness of the West to negotiate up to this point, now then any deal that Trump can negotiate is going to be worse for Ukraine, far worse than what we could have had in early 2022, worse than we could have had in June now. So Trump is coming in with a much weaker negotiating hand because of our unwillingness to discuss anything up to this point. So I think that Putin is willing to negotiate. Trump wants to negotiate, but it's not going to be a great deal, I don't think.
Just some final thoughts. People are using the term World War III quite a bit this week when they see the word nuclear a lot more in their feeds, or when they see these missiles being aimed back and forth. I mean, this is quite the escalation in this conflict. How warranted are those concerns of World War III? I mean, are we really concerned here?
I'll tell you what's dangerous. What's dangerous is what I've heard from a lot of senior American officials. And I'm talking about retired four-star generals who are going on TV all over the place. And they keep saying, there's no nuclear threat here. Don't even worry about it. He's bluffing. General Jack Keane a couple of days ago on Fox News literally laughed on camera and said, can you imagine that Putin is going to do anything nuclear, especially before Trump comes into office? I mean, they're just dismissing it. And I say, go back to 1945. Look at the images of what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Look at a lot of these test missiles that were done in the intervening years after World War II and the massive, massive destruction it's capable. If you're even playing with that kind of stuff, you are a danger. And so I certainly hope that nobody in the Biden administration in the last 2 months forgets that incredible risk. And I do know that some people on the incoming Trump administration are very, very sharply familiar with the risks that are involved, and they want to move us in a direction that's security and safe and not foolish escalation. But the bottom line to your answer, yes, there is reason to worry if we keep taking stupid decisions.
Okay, well, one can only hope that we don't head in that direction. Lieutenant Colonel
I
Daniel
do.
Davis, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.